on episode 323 of H of the show. We've been traveling around the world. Now we're getting a guy from Italy, Michele Graglia. Did I say your name right?
Michele, almost.
Michele!
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for coming on the show. And Amir Asmar, thanks. First of all, we want to say congrats on your award-breaking endurance run.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell us a bit about what made you make that decision? Like, yeah, I'm gonna try to beat the world record. Yeah.
Well, it's I gotta tell you, it's been a pretty long journey to get to this point. I was born and raised in Italy. And when I was about 24 years old, we were talking about 2007, I decided to leave my country and move to the States. At the time, I was working in the family business in the floral industry. And first week I landed in Miami, I got scouted by a renowned modeling agent and basically took on that career that in a very short period of time brought me to travel the world. They, introduced me to the whole, partying lifestyle and the whole fancy photo shoots and, that good life that we all kind of aspire to live,
Right.
And for a while, I gotta tell you, it was pretty awesome.
Was it good? Was it good?
Oh yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
24, 25 years old, everything is given, everything is handed. You're rolling with the socialites and celebrities and, making good money and living it up in the beach and traveling to Milan, London, New York, all of that. It was good. Good. It was good until it wasn't. It's always like that. I just came to a point where, I'm just really summing the whole thing up, but it just came a point where I just couldn't find purpose in what I was doing. I started feeling absolutely disconnected from the outside world. It was like we were living in a golden bubble, but it was still a bubble. And so it came a real moment of crisis, perhaps the most critical time in my life, where I just fell in a deep dissatisfaction, personal dissatisfaction in terms of, I didn't like what I was doing, didn't like who I was becoming in the process, and everything was crumbling down. It was almost like a paradox, that I was pretty much at the top of my career, and personally, I fell at the bottom. And change is always difficult. We all know that, but it's absolutely necessary to make it through the uncomfortable moments, to be able to transform yourself and reinvent yourself and in a way make it out of that pit. So I had to find a way to climb out of that situation and not let despair or depression eat me alive, because that's some sort of, I think that's something that pretty much we can all relate to. We all go through moments in life where we doubt ourselves and what we do, who we are, like all of these things. And out of this moment of crisis, a light came at the end of the tunnel thanks to a book. It was Dean Karnazes' Ultramarathon Man, which pretty much opened up my eyes to a whole new world that I didn't know existed. I knew marathons. Like,
how old were you? Sorry, how old were you when you
27 years old. So
27.
We're talking about, it was the end of 2010. So just over 10 years ago. And I don't know why. I wasn't a runner. I certainly wasn't looking for that. But when I read that book, it was like I deeply connected to what he was saying. I deeply connected to how he felt. We came from completely different paths. He was a successful businessman. I was in high fashion. But around that same time in our lives, we kind of came to the same conclusion. We had reached that material success, that so-called, good life and success, but despite that, we weren't happy. We were deeply dissatisfied. And he showed me that thanks to running, ultra running, he was able to reinvent himself and live a purposeful life in search of, finding his own potential and exploring inner and outer worlds. And that to me, that spoke directly to me. And from that point on, I was committed to give it a try and see what it was all about. Fast forward 10 years later, we're here talking, guys.
That's legendary. All right. From that, all right, because I want to know. So you think that if you didn't reach the level of success and wealth, or maybe that you did, you have not tried running? Was it just like you reached your goals, and then you had to
Well,
find a greater pursuit, right? Or hadn't happened for you?
I think that I don't know if it's necessarily complemental. I don't know if it's one the cause of the other, but it was definitely the pivotal moment. I lived my whole life. I think like all of us raised in a certain way, or at least like that's the societal trend is to, you got a good career, you make money, you got nice things, and that should be good enough, right? But and I would say, if you never reach that, it's always like saying money doesn't make happiness. Yeah, you say because you got
Right.
money that you can say it doesn't make happiness, but for a lot of people that struggle, money could be a source of happiness. So it's always like, in a way, it was the opportunity for me to explore that specific line of thought or mindset that we all pursue is not the answer to a life well lived, or a life that is worth living. Because again, we always strive to have a big fat bank account and nice
Right.
cars and nice clothes and showing off, and it's all about the status quo and what we show in society. But once you reach it, once you have it, you realize that that's all BS. It's empty. It's empty. It doesn't give you any fulfillment, any true fulfillment. It doesn't have any purpose behind it, just because it's all external. And the main goal to me became, well, not the main goal, but the highest understanding was to get to the point where I realized that the only worthwhile pursuit is the pursuit of bettering ourselves every single day, having it's almost like a self-propelling motivation that keeps on spiraling up the more you pursue it. So it's absolutely fascinating, and I gotta tell you, I think it's the greatest privilege of my life to be able to live this lifestyle and chase my dreams.
So what was the first thing you did when you realized this? So I can't imagine you jumped immediately into pursuing like world records. So must have started off as a hobby, no?
So, I am like a lot of people call me crazy. Kind of used to that. But I like to jump in head first, just because I want to know exactly what it is right away. So, I went from not being a runner, being a party guy and living that whole completely different lifestyle, to deciding to run an ultramarathon. And I remind you, I read that book in the Christmas time of 2010. So I laced up my running shoes at the beginning of 2011, and I started running laps in Central Park. 5 months later, on May 13th, 2011, I towed the line to my very first race, which happened to be a 100-miler. So I wanted to see what this concept was. I loved running, but running is just a means. I was fascinated about this concept of ultra. Ultra means beyond. So it literally is beyond running. It's a different discipline. You can say marathoners, you can kind of relate to that, but once you double, triple, quadruple or more the marathon distance, it's no longer a physical feat. It becomes something a lot deeper. It becomes mental, and eventually you're going to break down your mental as well. And that's when you start carving within. There's higher power that we can call the heart, the spirit, the soul, whatever you want to call it. So I was very much fascinated about that concept of understanding what lies beyond that limit. Because most often, the limitations are the ones that we set for ourselves. So being able to put yourself in a position to discover for yourself how far you can actually go, to me was mind-blowing. To me was absolutely fascinating and captivating. And I was willing to give it my all to try it. Signed up for that race, towed the line, 84 miles into the race, passed out cold, got brought out on an ambulance. And my family from Italy was there to crew for me. My now wife was there crewing for me. They were all crying, begging me to stop. And that's how it all started, guys.
Oh, wow. And during that race, was there for you any reason you could have possibly stopped? Like when you said, I'm ready to go.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
go?
it was absolutely
Right.
it was absolutely a death march. I mean,
Right.
I went there, you know, I trained for 5 months, which is reckless. I ramped up the mileage recklessly. I started running, you know, 50, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140 plus miles a week in a matter of 5 months, which is really, really tight.
Yeah.
I showed up with short shorts, a handheld bottle, and I'm like, let's roll, you know, let's rock. And, you know, I just ran. I literally ran until I could no longer run. And I just passed out. You know, the one thing that, you know, despite the initial failure, the one thing that gave me hope is the fact that when I passed out, I was actually in the lead. And so that in a way gave me the understanding that if I did more work in terms of like widening my knowledge in terms of nutrition, hydration, all the little parts that go, you know, in the recipe, then I could have been good at it. And, you know, and so I did. I took my time to recover because that race literally crippled me. Got back on my feet. 6 months later, I won the following race, a 50 miler, then won the third race, then won the fourth race. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm on a good path and maybe
Let's go.
Maybe I can do something good about, you know, with this. So, yeah.
That's amazing. To be honest, I've only passed out once while training in my life. And it was very it's very tough on you because when you pass out, you're in a weird point where you kind of have that inner strength that you're talking about because you are pushing yourself beyond your limit, but then your body actually fails. And it's a weird point to be in because you're like, what happens now? Like, it's better.
It's a process. It's a constant process. You know, there's gonna be, I gotta tell you, the start is always the hardest point because you also attach to certain limitations. So I don't want to say it's a mental game that you're basically playing while developing your body. So your body slowly is gonna toughen up and get more resilient. But you know, there's gonna be a point, even in the fittest athlete on the planet, there's gonna be a breaking point. In any race, it happens. In any challenge, in any endeavor worthwhile pushing your body, pushing yourself, it's gonna happen. You're gonna break down, and that's when you go ultra. That's when you go beyond the physical. That's when you start tapping into something greater. And you know, I call ultra running a spiritual practice because it truly allows you to transcend the physical. It allows you to even transcend the mental, and it allows you to tap into the deeper inner self. And that's when you start realizing that with the right strategy, you are infinite at any level. And, you know, if you can manage your energy resources in terms of sleep and nutrition and like energy levels, you can ideally go forever. You know, in October, I ran the Moab 240 miles, which is almost 400 kilometers through the high deserts of Utah with deep canyons, high mountains, sands and rocks and everything in between. And I ran for 60 hours straight, nonstop.
When you say nonstop, you mean like no sleep or?
No sleep.
Wow.
So that's what I'm saying, you know, and if you told me 10 years ago that I was going to run a marathon, I would have said, forget it. But here we are now, you know, just finding out that we are all capable of extraordinary things. All you have to do is decide to do it. You have to commit to do it. And know there's going to be uncomfortable moments. Know there's going to be pain. Know there's going to be struggle. But, you know, I think that life begins when comfort ends, if it makes sense. You truly begin to feel alive. You truly begin to live fully. and you experience yourself at the outmost. And that's I'm talking about magical moments that we would never experience in comfort and in security, just because you have to put yourself out there and see what you're made of.
There's a
Very
quote
powerful.
by Carl Jung that I like. He says, "You are what you do, not what you say you do." And over here, you speak about it and you say it's magical, but really what you're doing is also magical for everyone else to witness as well. So it's only fair that you experience the magic of it.
That's absolutely right.
My question to you is, do you think about how far in the future do you think, like 5, 10 years, 15 years?
Well, I would say that the search, the vision now has definitely changed from when I started, because of course, we grow, we evolve, we learn. And so the motivation needs to change as well. You cannot get stuck to what motivated you 5 years ago, because it's not going to work. And to me, the only way I can find a constant flow of energy to keep pursuing what I do is to keep pushing the boundaries, to keep pushing the envelope and see how far we can actually go. I was born and raised in Italy, very much from with a strong influence from the Greek mythology. And we all know the story of Philippides, the poor Greek guy that ran from here to there. He said we won, then he died because he ran the marathon. And so that was kind of set as the limit. And just like that, we tend to accept the reality that we're presented with. We tend to accept the limitations that we're presented with, and we don't challenge them. We don't even we say, okay, nobody's ever done it, so that means it's not possible. But it's only until you actually try to go past the limit that you find out that you can burst through those walls and find out that there's a whole world behind it. And so to me, to answer your question is, I don't know how far I can go. And that's what allows me to wake up every morning, to work on myself in a purposeful way, knowing that every morning when I wake up before dawn, I get up with one goal in mind, and that's raising my limits, pushing my boundaries, develop myself, grow, learn, explore, to find out how far I can actually go. So as of right now, I ran 400K nonstop. I ran almost 1,200 miles, which we're talking about almost 2,000 kilometers through the Gobi Desert in less than 3 weeks last year. It's very much like it's an open game. Mm-hmm. It's an open game, and that transcends the physicality of this, the actual sport, the discipline of running, because running at that point just becomes a mean. It's not the tool. You can achieve these levels of higher understanding with so many practices. I'm a yoga instructor. I studied yoga in Rishikesh in India, in an ashram for several months, and the teachings of the Vedic culture through the yogis that are 5,000-10,000 years old are very much similar to what I'm talking about. So here we are as ultra runners, kind of redefining our understanding of human potential through personal exploration. And I think more than a runner, I consider myself an explorer, an adventurer, if it makes sense.
You're literally exploring all these places when you're running through them.
Right, that too.
Yeah.
It becomes a very much like an inner and outer exploration. If you want to talk it from an adventurous standpoint, we're in a time where all the lands have been explored, all the seas have been crossed, all the mountains have been tagged. I think the true adventure, the only true exploration left is the exploration of ourselves, digging in the depth of our own spirituality in a way, to create a connection, find out who we truly are, and expand that outward. One thing that I learned is that the more you connect within, the more you're connected outward. And I think that's a lesson that probably the world needs at this moment. finding out that we are connected, that we're all the same, doesn't matter where we're from.
And do you find that this exploration of the self, is it sometimes lonely? Because I feel like when you do have to really explore yourself, you might have to cut off too many branches and burn off too many old logs. So
absolutely. Yeah, it is a lonely journey. It is a lonely journey in a way, for the fact that you have to disconnect. To connect, you have to disconnect, if it makes sense.
Yes.
You know, you have to disconnect from the noise of society, because it's ugly to say, but the mass vibrates at a very low frequency. The mass has a very low awareness and consciousness. And I'm not saying, you know, some are better than the others. It's just the opportunities, the way you are, you know, you put yourself into that allow you to explore your realm. And by that, I mean, you know, it requires a great level of commitment to cut off from friendships and partying and all of the fun stuff that we call fun. But to me, you know, the more I explore this world, the less I need that old world. You know, so it's almost like, yeah, you disconnect from, and you lose some friendships along the way, but at what price? I think there's much more reward in exploring yourself and who you are, rather than entertaining meaningless BS with people that most likely you don't care about. So let's talk real, guys. I mean, we only have one journey on this planet. Let's make it worthwhile, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the times, if you're not careful, at least from my personal experience, if I'm not careful, it feels like I'm in it's like when I listen to other people, it feels like a loop. It's a voice recorder stuck on loop. And you can tell that's also what they think on the inside too. And it's just coming on the outside. And if you perceive it in this way, you get to see some insight on how it starts to affect you if you're not careful.
Yep.
And so when you disconnect, you get to kind of rebalance that inner world in you and kind of remove the loop of the voice recorder and just start to nurture it.
I think it's a societal trend. The societal trend is focused on meaningless entertainment. It doesn't allow you to explore your true inner world, and that's because it's dangerous. From a you know, if you look at from a societal standpoint, the free thinkers have always been hunted down. The free thinkers have always been chased and, you know, shut down, because if you truly explore yourself, your inner world, you don't need all the stuff that we put up in society. You don't chase the trend, you don't chase this, you don't chase that. And so you started becoming a problem, because states, governments, all of these things, they want to comply everything at the same level, to conform everything, while free thinking allows you to create critical thinking and understand that pretty much all the stuff that we do is against the essence of our humanity. We are living in a state that, and not in a state in a sense of country, in a global state of constant chase towards productivity, towards economical growth. But have we ever stopped for a second to think if economical growth is actually growth? Like what we're doing to our planet, what we're doing to ourselves. And I'm talking about environmental issues, I'm talking about racism, I'm talking about all of these things that are absolutely actual in this moment. You know, they all have a spiritual solution. So there is no way, you know, the government or a state or a country or a, you know, society will tell you develop yourself in a way, because you're drifting away from what is the trend right now. So that it requires courage, it requires commitment to take a step back and venturing that journey for yourself. You know, a lot of times you might sound crazy, but the truth is always behind all of that, the curtain of noise. that is put in front of our faces. And for the majority of people, you know, it's always going to be the end of the road. You know, you just hit that, and that's, you know, you wake up and you just follow your thing, you go to work, you make the money, and that's, you know, that's the end of it. But if, you know, there's a great quote by Thoreau that, you know, Thoreau is one of my favorite philosophers and writers of all time. And, you know, there's a great phrase that always resonates with me is, most men live a life of quiet desperation. So you live in your comfortable lifestyle, you live in your false sense of securities, but deep inside you feel miserable because you know there is something greater out there. So there must be a conscious choice of breaking through those barriers, breaking those chains to find freedom, ultimate freedom. And again, you're not going to be able to cut off completely from the world because that's absurd, but you can, let's say, pave the way for yourself, carve your own trail, and live a life that is worth living at your own, you know, depending on what your calling is, your own, right. Let's say, your own way. And so that to me is absolutely fascinating.
Completely agree. I was having a conversation with a friend not too long ago, and they really wanted to do this activity, and they were telling me they're really anxious about doing it, right? They wanted to go on some kind of trip, and they're really anxious about doing it. And to me, it's like, well, you could go and maybe you'll be miserable at point B, but right now you're miserable anyway.
Right. So might as well.
Might as well. You're not missing out on any misery there.
Yeah,
so
totally.
The process of personal exploration, it just gets you to the point where you realize everything needs to change. That's Absolutely. It. There's nothing that needs to be the way it is now.
Well, just taking a step back to what you were saying, I think everything needs to start from reconnecting within. Mm-hmm. You know, we are absolutely disconnected from ourselves because everything is outward. The search, the material search and material success is outside of us. The status quo is outside of us. All the influences that we get are outside of us. The social media influences are outside of us. You're constantly dealing with stuff that is outside of you, and that automatically pushes everything on the wrong direction. You are focused that way, while the focus should be this way. The problems, the issues in our lives, the bad moments, they're all just like clouds in the sky. They're there, they come, they go. We're gonna have good times, we're gonna have bad times. But if you have a solid base within yourself, and you're conscious and you're balanced and you are connected within, what happens outside doesn't matter, because you have a solid base where you can stand from. Doesn't matter the storm outside. So the idea here that I want to share is the fact that I'm definitely not inviting anyone to run ultramarathons. Otherwise, there's a million and one ways that you can find that sense of connection. Yoga, any activity, Pilates, any activities that you are fully involved. You know, when we talk about you're in the zone, when you're in the zone, nothing more than being completely present. You're closing down all the stuff outside. There's no voice, there's no thought, there's no other people saying this, other people opinions, there's no phone calls, there's no emails, there's no tweets, there's nothing. It's just you enjoying what you're doing. That creates connection. The more you explore that, the more you get in tune with yourself, the more the inward exploration begins. And the more you get in tune with yourself, it's almost like meditation, really. The more you feel content, you open up to a more kind, to a more loving version of yourself even. And that's when the magic happens, because at that point you open up again to a better version of yourself, and you can contribute at a highest level, because once you come from a place of purity and love, you can only better the lives of those around you. And so, if we all did that, we'd probably live in a much better world.
Yeah.
So you found ultra marathon running in a book, you said, right? It just came to you. So for most people out there who are trying to find their calling, for you, you were able to start this change and break out because of this calling. How are people supposed to find it?
You were breaking up a little bit. I'm sorry, I couldn't understand the question.
Yeah, how are people supposed to find their calling? Like, it came to you.
Well, I would definitely invite you to read my book, Ultra, which just launched. There are definitely, the stories are very much, of course, about, modeling back in the days, and told through running adventures and experiences. But the book is not about running. The book is about the life lessons that can absolutely transcend the discipline, and it can be applied to any endeavor in life, whether it's career, business, relationship, sport, whatever you want to call it. There are the basic idea is to kind of reconnect to the truth of our existence and not get caught up in what we think we should do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because I feel like human beings are not evolved to be what we are right now, which is these productivity machines. We're getting in an office and just coding or just working and stuff, and then 80 hours of work week and going, people partying or wasting their money or drugs or stuff on the weekend, and it's not healthy. That's not where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be trying to pursue our own passions.
If you have a society that is basically counting down the days during the week and they cannot wait to get to Friday so they can celebrate 2 days out of the week and then get back in a cage for 5 days. I think the times have changed. And I'm not saying again that what's been done in the past was right or was wrong. I'm just saying that, and I am agreeing with you, Ali. I think the time have changed, and the understanding of what we need to do in this world and our contribution can be much greater than just clocking in.
For a lot of people, exactly, it's really hard to break out of that wave to begin with. They're stuck in that loop. And you say that the answer is within, and you need to start exploring from within.
Yeah.
But that is like, if a lot of people, if they look within, they're just going to see something that's ugly or something they don't want to see. So they just try to separate themselves from it. Am I mistaken?
Well, we all have to confront our demons.
Right.
We all have to confront our demons at one point in our lives. And the sooner you do it, the better. And, what I'm trying to say with this is, I agree with you. The times have changed. What worked in the past, or at least what was, what happened in the past, is no longer applying to us, for the fact that we understanding the flaws of that pattern. We understanding that we are not just machines, that we're not pieces of a mechanism. We are human beings. We are, amazing, powerful, energies, and all of us are capable to contribute at the highest level if we're given the opportunity. Of course, we are all the product of our environment. So a lot of time, we have cultural, we have religious, we have families, we have personal, in a way, boxes that we're put into. And we just take those as absolute truths, without giving the opportunity to actually explore what could be right or what could be wrong in any of those. So what I'm trying to get to is the fact that, when we grow up, we all want to be something extraordinary. The first days of school, when the teacher asks you when you want to be when you grow up, we all say, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be this, I want to be that. And then we all kind of take the easy way out, and we've carved a path that gives us the last amount of struggle and the last amount of effort with the most amount of comfort and security. But the more we dive towards that, the more we deny ourselves, the more we narrow our possibilities of a life well lived. Because again, ultimately, we all have bigger dreams, and they all die along the way because we are constantly bombarded by other people's opinions. And that's, again, that brings me back to the idea that you need to cultivate yourself and what you truly want, who you truly are, because whatever is said outside shouldn't matter. What you want, it's what you want, not what your parents not what your country wants, not what your people wants, not what your culture wants. You know what I mean? You are a unique energy that comes to this planet, in my opinion, and it requires an outstanding, of course, it requires an outstanding amount of courage, dedication, and commitment to make those dreams come true. But what I want to share here with you guys today is that not only it is absolutely necessary, but it is possible. If 10 years ago you were going to tell me that I was going to able to actualize myself and become a professional ultra runner, I would have never believed it. But for whatever reason, I did believe in myself. And nowadays I feel absolutely fortunate, privileged, and honored to say that I achieved what I set out to do. And now I do live a life of exploration, full of gratitude and love for what I do.
Mm-hmm. And how did that change from your modeling background? Because you said you were still, I'm assuming, like fit and exercising and living. Could you have been more meditative while pursuing that modeling lifestyle, or do they not go together?
I mean, you can absolutely do it. It just wasn't for me.
Right.
I'm not talking bad about that world. I just said that, it just didn't reflect my values, and I just couldn't find contentment and fulfillment in that type of environment. So in a way, I was absolutely fit. I was absolutely taking care of myself. I was definitely, healthy, somewhat, beside the drinking, all the stuff that came with it. But, it just came a moment where I realized that was a dream. That was a dream life, but it wasn't my dream. So that was as simple as that. I was, I lived it up. I explored it long and wide, but I just realized that there wasn't going to be any growth in that world for me. And so that's when I fell into the crisis, and that's where eventually led me to discover ultra running and pursue this whole different path.
So if you had one piece of advice, or I don't think advice is the right word, but if you had something that you would recommend people to do, like a habit or just an exercise, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's meditation, what do you think is the most essential one in your opinion from the things that you do on a daily basis?
I would say to meditate, to explore meditation. It's absolutely it's one of the most difficult practices you can entertain. A lot of people can tell you, I try meditating, it's not for me. Of course, you've done it once, twice, or three times. Of course, it's not for you. Just like if I tell you you've been a couch potato and I take you out running 2, 3, 4 times, you're going to tell me running is not for me. But if you do it over time, practice, doesn't make perfect, but allows you to explore what it is about. I started meditating in 2013. I started exploring at the highest level in 2014. And since then, it's been a constant process, a constant work, constant exploration of that. But even at pretty much at any level of it, I'm not saying that you're gonna float and you're gonna levitate. You're not gonna become Buddha. You're not gonna discover nirvana. You're not gonna do any of that. But what it will allow you to do is to, for a minute, or for 10 minutes, or for 15 minutes, whatever time you have, it allows you to just, all you have to do is not do anything, which is the hardest thing you can do. All you have to do is close your eyes. You can sit in a comfortable position, a difficult position, whatever you want. And all you gotta do is control the breath. Feel the breath going in, feel the breath going out. The simple gesture allows you to feel yourself already. You're already feeling yourself. You feel the breath, you feel the nostril opening up, you feel air flowing, filling up your lungs, you feel the heart, you feel your body, you feel yourself. The more you do that in and out, you begin to feel in this fluctuation, right? Almost like a wave. You're feeling the up, you're feeling the down, you're feeling empty, you're feeling full. All of these things are eventually is going to bring you to understand the fluctuations of the mind as well. And you're not going to be able to stop the thoughts, because thoughts are always going to be there. The mind is a trickster. Yeah. We often emphasize the mindset and the strength of the mind and all of that. But again, I think there's a much higher energy behind it. There's a much higher grade of, of understanding that is beyond the physical, is beyond the mind, and it taps into something much greater. And, but that simple workout of processing your thoughts and understanding that they're not who you are. Because oftentimes we tend to identify ourselves with our thoughts while we are not those. It's almost like saying you are the sky and you identify with the clouds. No, the clouds are just hovering well below. They're just fogging your view of what's truly above. So it's almost like rising above the clouds, rising above the noise, to be able to tap into that infinite self. And the more you culture that, the more you realize that we're capable, all of us, of extraordinary things. So when you do that, you not only explore a new realm for yourself, but you also allow yourself to empower others to do the same. And it's, as I said before, it's almost like a self-propelling energy that keeps rising and rising. You might lose a lot of friends and connections along the way because the people that are
I don't want to.
But I gotta tell you, it also narrows down those like-minded people, and it makes a much more meaningful connections and networks. So less friends, more valuable though.
True. I would say I've been meditating since 2015. So
nice.
Since 6 years ago. Well, I would say I only understood it about 2 years ago at best. Like it took a very long time to be able to listen, I think. And the listening itself is the transformation. It does all the work for you to just be able to listen, whether it's to your thoughts or to your body or whatever it is that you can be aware of. When you just listen, it does a transformation on its own.
That's absolutely right. It takes time. It takes practice. It's not an easy journey, but again, it's absolutely necessary, I think, for everyone to explore that in a way or another,
I think just in order to become a more complete human being, you're not complete without it if you don't try to do something meditative or something more passionate beyond yourself.
It's almost like, you're sacrificing something. It's almost like a person that only takes care of the body. It's almost like a person that only takes care of their intellect. It's almost a person that only does one thing. If you want to be a full, evolved human being, you have to explore all those realms. And those, just like yoga says, yoga means union of the body, the mind, and the soul. So the whole idea, just like the martial arts, they're all just means, but the theory is something that goes along the same way, whether it's yoga, martial arts, ultra running, all of this practice that allow you to tune in your physical, transcend the mental, and tap into the spiritual.
Yeah, like judo is based off Zen, for example, right? And it's all about.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and it's all about just.
Oh wow!
This is what life is throwing at you. How are you going to deal with it? But they're literally throwing a human body at you, and how are you going to
Right. Yeah, but that that's the same. That's the same teachings. I do speak of Zen in the book actually, and that's pretty fascinating for the fact that as you say, once you are, let's say, balanced, prepared in all those endeavors, what happens outside doesn't matter. That's why a lot of fighters always say the opponent doesn't matter. It's only you. It's always you. And that's the same thing when I do my races. I never focus on competition. There's no competition. Right. The competition is only you. It's just
All right,
yourself.
this is a really this is so inspiring, honestly, and I'm ultra motivated right now. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And this is a really powerful message. If you heard this and you're inspired and motivated just like me, share it with someone else, because it's a ripple effect, and then hopefully we can all break out of our bubbles and go into the beyond awesome. Anyways, what's next? What's next for you?
Well, in exactly a week time, I'll be towing the line at Badwater 135. So the toughest foot race on the planet, 135 miles through the hottest place on earth.
In the hottest year, right?
In the hottest time of the year, yep. So, you know, all the homework has been done. Now it's time to dance.
All right. Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
And check out the book. Obviously, we're going to leave a link in the bio.
Appreciate it.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you for watching A2 the show.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Do you want to shout out or say?
Bye.
Awesome. All right. A2 the show, the most international educational podcast. Check it out. Woo.
Awesome.
Nice. Awesome. Well, that was awesome. Thanks so much.